Hello, everyone. Daniel Forouzan, host of the Schmoozin with Forouzan podcast. Very excited to be here. Always enjoy speaking to colleagues and friends, learning about areas of law that I don't practice, I don't know about. Today, we're doing intellectual property with Mariana Noli. Mariana is the founder of Noli IP Solutions. Mariana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Daniel. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you. Look, I don't do intellectual property. For a lot of the litigators who I talk to, IP is this maze that we don't understand. There's copyright, but then there's trademark, but then there's fair use, and your brain can go back and forth on these things. So I appreciate you being here, and you're going to help clarify a couple of things. Before we do, I also wanted to let everyone know, I mean, most people already know this, you're also the president of the Italian American Bar Association. Is that correct?
Yes, in Los Angeles. That's correct.
When did your term start?
January, and it ending in January.
And you've had Leonardo DiCaprio show up at one of your events?
We didn't, but I was hoping.
Didn't I see him on one of your, maybe it was a...
No, but I have to tell you, you may have read in the news, one of our guests of honor that's running for governor of New York. We have another individual that's running for mayor of Los Angeles that was our guest. We had the prosecutor in the Harvey Weinstein case in Manhattan. We had the founder of the National Organization of Italian Women. I've been very fortunate to have the opportunity to interview individuals that, in all honesty, I never thought I would have a chat with them, you know, like retired California Supreme Court Justices Moreno and Chin. It's just, you learn so much from speaking with such accomplished and knowledgeable individuals. So it's been wonderful to serve as president.
I believe it. Let me ask you this question. You may have already answered it. What was the most interesting part of being a bar association president, and what's the most challenging part?
For me, because I like to make everybody happy, it's been to make everybody happy because you're not going to. But I have to say that this group, the Italian American Bar Association of the Italian American Lawyers Association of Los Angeles, it's very important to me. I joined right when I finished law school and I passed the bar, and I grew up basically with the group. So for my colleagues to choose me as their president, it was truly an honor. It was challenging because even though I'm not so young anymore, I was quote unquote on the younger side to be a leader of the bar. So earning the respect and showing individuals that I could do a good job. So I think that could be one challenge. Again, trying to make sure that everybody is pleased with the programs that we're putting together. And also it's been very challenging, not only for our group, but for all the bar associations this year and last year due to the pandemic. So our group, we Italians love to get together and break bread and celebrate in person. And the Zoom, it was good because it kept us going and it kept us together, but it's not our preference. We like to meet in person. So that was another challenge that I had during my presidency.
By the way, I apologize. Did I call it Italian American Bar Association? Italian American Lawyers Association. IALA is how
of Los Angeles, yes.
My apologies.
But you know, people probably know, the Italian American group, legal group, the lawyers. Yeah,
sometimes that's IALA. Some people call my law firm Law Office of Daniel Forouzan. I'm like, no, it's Forouzan Law. But at the end of the day, I was at your swearing in ceremony. It was virtual.
I know you.
I'm so impressed. What they did, for those of you who weren't at the swearing in ceremony, it was all virtual, but the Italian American Lawyers Association did as good of a job as I think anyone has done at creating a swearing in gala online. Everyone had, there was a point we all made toasts. We're all drinking together virtually. It was really cute. You guys did a fantastic job of recreating the in-person feel as much as possible over Zoom. I know, of course, doing the West Side Bar Association stuff, the Zoom thing is a whole nother animal. It's a whole nother creature, but And it also, in another way, I found it also made things much more streamlined. Let me ask you a question. You had mentioned, you were one of the younger people that they had in that position. And this is something I've heard, a sentiment I've heard echoed elsewhere. Would you say that bar associations, from your perspective, are looking to sort of invigorate themselves, try to have a younger membership or something like that?
I hope so. I know that the current leadership is, and I think that if we think about it, it's the future. So I get very excited when we get younger lawyers come to our events. I know your bar association is a younger population than our group, but we need both. We need the experience and guidance of the attorneys that have been around for several decades, and also the resources that they bring to the table, but also the energy and the ideas outside the box that maybe younger generations can bring to the groups. I was very fortunate that, you said before we started this conversation, if I think that bar associations are important, and I think that they're very important. So for any law student or younger lawyer that is listening, I think that everything that you may think that you're not getting out of at a particular time, eventually it will bear its fruits, all the effort, all the connections that you make. So if I were to give advice to younger lawyers, I would say try to get involved with the bar. You can do as little or as much as your schedule allows you. Of course, there are some people that have more time because they may not be raising a young family, but I do think that it's very beneficial for any lawyer to be involved at the bars.
Yeah, I agree. You are very well networked. I see all the posts on Facebook, on Instagram. I don't know how many bar association events you're attending a week, and they're all big. Like none of them only have a few people. What, do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy the networking apparatus of a bar association?
Oh, I love it. But the challenge is to find a balance. Yeah. And of course, as you get a more of a leadership role, then you have more responsibilities if you want to do a good job. So it's a good source of, business referrals. So it's good in that sense. Also, if you're looking to change, you to be at a firm, or I think it's good at every level. And even for people like we are, that we run our own practices, you get together with other colleagues, and if there is an issue that you're not sure how to approach it, you can call your friend at the bar that is in your same field and maybe get another outlook, the same issue, but from a different perspective. So I think, I'm very fortunate that I listened to, my father's an attorney also, he's retired now, but he told me early on, get involved with the bar associations. And I was like, oh, another thing to do. But right, because you're starting a practice and you want to learn the law, and it's very demanding, as we know. But I'm glad I listened.
Yeah. You're president of a major bar association. That's a big deal. I think I already know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. And here's why. In the last month, 3 attorneys younger than me, one of them my age, came to me asking for advice in terms of finding jobs and stuff like that. And I said to them, hey, start going to these bar association events. That might not be, one of them, for example, said this to me, said, look, Daniel, I'm motivated, I'm dedicated, but I wasn't top 5% of my class. On paper, I only look so. And the funny thing about this guy, very amicable individual, gets along with everyone. Everyone loves him. I think the best face that he could show is just to go somewhere and shake hands. Don't worry so much about your resume for now. Make those relationships. Let me ask you this question. Again, I think I know the answer, but would you say that your involvement with bar association, the legal scene, and not just as a president, but generally networking, has that benefited your law firm?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had no choice. And I don't want to say, but I do have a very inspiring story, in the sense, as you can tell, I have an accent. So I wasn't born here. I wasn't raised here in the United States. I was an exchange student in high school. I went back to Argentina for law school. I came back. to work for a law firm as a foreign counsel expert. And I think if it would not have been for my involvement with the different bar associations, I couldn't be where I'm at, running my own practice, and I couldn't, yeah, I couldn't have accomplished so much. So I'm hoping I still have a lot to accomplish, and that I will see how my career continues. But where I stand today, there were moments in time that if I would not have been involved at the bar association, I would have had to pack my things and go back home, basically. So,
Can you give us an example? I don't mean to dip into your personal life, but can you give us an example just for the people?
I love it because I think it gives people, you may not know, I took the bar exam 3 times. Mm-hmm. So people say, oh yeah, did you pass the first time? And there are a lot of students out there that say, oh, I didn't pass. Well, keep trying. I remember the last time I missed it for maybe 8 points or 3 points. I was really close, but people don't like to say that they fail. I failed plenty. Okay. And I can tell you, you have to continue to try, probably because it was a foreign language, also because I was working at a law firm. But even if that was not the case, not always because you passed the first try, that makes you a better lawyer. So if some law students that are studying for the bar and, get discouraged, I would be your cheerleader and I would tell you, keep on trying. And and you could also be at a job that maybe your supervisors don't think that you have no capacity to be a leader. And at one point I was told that. Oh. And it's pretty amazing because not only do I run my own practice and I'm able to create a few jobs for some people, but also I'm almost ending my term as leader of a major bar association in Los Angeles. I'm not sure. Sometimes the way that people judge you, it could be off. I don't know. So I think that, you always have to keep trying, keep learning. And at the bar, meeting people that are encouraging. I have a lot of friends at the Italian American Lawyers Association that have helped me.
Whoever these people are who said you're never going to be a leader, do you send them things on the Italian American Lawyer Association letterhead and like sign president just to?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't, but but I'm sure that, I try to, that's one thing I can tell you too. And I think that if you're advising somebody that is 10, 15 years younger, and I was sharing with you, I was admitted to the California State Bar 15 years ago. And my career has been amazing. I'm very fortunate with everything that I accomplished. Sometimes I cannot even believe it. But the one thing I can say is try to not burn any bridges because you never know. And in IP, our community is very small. So I'm grateful for those individuals because at times when people put into question your capacity, you have 2 options. You either believe them or you prove them wrong. Yeah. So I'm kind of happy that I proved them wrong, but that I keep it to myself. Yeah.
A couple of those letterheads handy just in case. Got to send some letters to people. Let's do one more question on bar associations. It's a privilege to speak to someone else who, I do the WBA stuff, but the WBA is a little different from the other bar associations. It's not as large, doesn't have as great of an establishment feel to it. What would you say is right now the biggest difficulty? And maybe we already discussed it in the age gap, but what would you say is the biggest challenge generally facing the bar association scene in Southern California?
Well, the pandemic's been very challenging because we haven't been able to meet in person. So, and I don't know if you are aware, but next Wednesday, we have our first event at the Casa Italiana after a year and a half of not meeting in person. And we're very excited that the California Supreme Court justices are going to be able to say hello via Zoom. But unfortunately, because their in-person hearings in Los Angeles were canceled in person, then they won't be attending. That's one of our signature events that we are very proud about. Every December, we have the California Supreme Court come and share bread with us. And and talk about the state of affairs of the courts and things, of that nature. But this year we'll do it virtually. I think the pandemic has affected all the bar associations. One thing that I'm very proud of our group is that we got very creative early on in the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, and we continue to meet virtually via Zoom. And we were able to reach out to groups in other states and even in Italy. If it was not due to the pandemic and the impossibility of meeting in person, we would not have done that. So we had experts logging in from Italy and experts logging in from New York and the Midwest and Florida. So, but the challenges of every bar association, like what are you giving to your membership? And if your membership thinks that they're getting something out of the group, I think not only the networking, but our programs have been fantastic. The CLE programs that we had this year were very good. Just keeping the membership, engaged, involved. And yeah.
No, look, I appreciate that. An interesting thing for me, and I realized this as we were just talking, just imagine 20 years ago, someone would say to me, hey, do you want to go to a event with a bunch of lawyers and drink and have food? Like 20 years ago, I'd be like, well, why would I want to do that? Now I love these lawyer networking events. I love all of them. I miss them. So, and it's funny how that works, right? I feel so at home. I'm with my people, whatever you want to call it. The people all understand each other pretty well because we all share. And what's interesting about these bar association events, at least I remember when I first went, I was like, oh, that's a defense attorney, that's a plaintiff's attorney. Hey, they're drinking together. Really? Is this how it works behind the scenes? And it's like, yeah, to an extent. We're all professionals at the end of the day. So when you say that you have a signature event in December and you want to have the judges, I get it. I get it. Those signature events, especially in December, the holidays, it's warm, right? It's warm to see your colleagues.
And it's the California Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So it doesn't get any higher than that in our state. So for us, it's been, we are very proud of this event. I hope that we continue this tradition. But yeah, we get a lot of judges, and our members are friends, plaintiffs, defense attorneys, prosecutors. They all know each other. Friends, you know what I mean. They're colleagues. They may not see things the same way, but yeah, they respect each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, speaking about practices of law, areas of the law, I wanted to chat with you about intellectual property, something I really know very little about. Obviously, your office does IP, so you're the right person to ask. Let me ask first big picture question, and this is like the most obvious question. How has the pandemic changed the practice of IP? I don't mean like virtual court. I mean, what about IP is changing now because of the pandemic?
I actually can tell you, well, it's interesting you don't know much about IP because I understand you're a musician and you have an artistic side to you. So, but I love IP for that reason. I love working with artists, and I think this was my field of law. So I'm fortunate that I found it early on. The one thing that the pandemic, of all the lawyers, I would think that we IP attorneys are the more, we are keeping up with the changes in technology and innovation, just because that's the nature of what we do. So we work with, I'm not necessarily a patent prosecutor or a patent attorney, but we work with a lot of innovative individuals that are coming up with the next thing, right? So you learn all these things thanks to the day-to-day work that you do for your clients. I think that we are pretty tech savvy compared to other lawyers. And I haven't seen much of a change in the sense that we were already preparing for the future that the pandemic only accelerated. A lot of us were already working remotely, and most of my clients are not even in the same city or state or country than me. I work with a lot of foreign companies that come and do business in the US. So a lot of our meetings are already virtual over the phone or the internet. Luckily, we have seen an increase in work as opposed to a decrease. And I don't know how it is for other practices of law, but we've been very busy last year and this year. And it could be because a lot of people that left their jobs, started their own enterprises. And the first thing that they did was to set up a new company and protect their IP. But there's been an increase in work. And earlier this year, when I had the opportunity to meet with the DC delegation, and there was a representative of the United States Patent and Trademark Office that sat down and chat with me and my colleagues of the IP section, they have also seen an increase in the filings, and that's why there's been more of a delay in getting answers from the trademark office. So the work has continued to increase for IP lawyers. And I don't think that the pandemic affected us negatively necessarily, but yeah, I don't do much court work, but I did have 4 cases that we filed with the district court and 1 hearing via Zoom. I wouldn't know the difference because most of the cases settled very early on. So yeah. So I wouldn't be able to tell you, but I really don't think there's been much of a difference for me.
That's interesting. Yeah, depending on who you speak to, some people say exactly what you say. It hasn't changed. There's frankly even more work. And there's other people who say, well, no, the whole situation has radically changed. Workers' compensation, for example, I have a feeling because I don't know exactly how the laws there work, but you imagine if someone gets sick on the job, they go through the work comp system, that's going to affect the work comp lawyers significantly. In my employment world, I have had some people come to me and say, hey, I think my employer is discriminating against me because they want me to get vaccination. I haven't done any of those cases personally. I find them to be a little too much involved in politics, and I'm more so looking to represent victims. But I do occasionally get those calls. So that is kind of interesting. Why don't we look forward? What do you think 2025 and on? What do you think? The things are, I mean, you have Facebook that's creating virtual reality. Have you heard that they're selling virtual reality real estate? Are you familiar with this?
Oh, no, tell me a little more.
Okay, so I don't have this down perfectly, guys. Don't quote me, but I have the general gist. Facebook has some virtual reality world, the metaverse, meta world. I don't know what it's called. But in that world, which is completely virtual, they are selling real estate to companies that can advertise their products to you in that virtual reality world. I don't know if that's really cool futuristic tech or if absolutely dystopian Black Mirror nightmare. I'm not really sure which of the two it is. But that's so wild to me that we finally got there, that virtual real estate is being sold. What do you see?
Oh yeah, a lot of changes. Well, you mentioned social media. I guess when you said the changes about the pandemic, social media already existed before the pandemic, and a lot of these changes that we see. But one thing about the law, it regulates, as we know, interactions among individuals, human relationships. So with IP, it's everything that relates to creative arts and you mentioned before this interview, the NFTs. Yeah, everything that continues to come out, it presents questions for the experts in the particular area of law. Okay, how are we going to be dealing with this now? Or how are we going to be dealing with that? Right? I think that, in IP, there is always going to be new things coming up. Like, for example, social media presented so many questions relating to privacy and data collection and things like that IP experts, and you may consider it a different field, but I get a lot of questions from my clients in connections with that, right? Like, what data are they collecting, if they're selling the privacy policies of the different companies. So I don't know if this answers your question, but the more that we continue to evolve as a society and things continue to change, the law will follow. Unfortunately, we are not ahead. We're always behind. And one of an example that we're always behind was that case that I talked to you about, the NFTs. You're asking me, Mariana, do you know what are the NFTs? I'm not much of a tech person, but I can tell you it poses so many questions when it comes to IP and the issues. Who owns what? What's going to happen? And I shared with you that recent case that was filed by Miramax against Quentin Tarantino about Pulp Fiction, or those unseen portions of the film that are going to be sold to whoever purchases that particular NFT, and that individual can show them to the world or keep them to himself or herself or share them. All these questions, things happen in the real world, and then the laws come in right behind it, try to figure it out. Are we going to consider it like, one of my thoughts was, well, what should we consider it derivative work of the copyright, original copyright? And of course, you would have to read the agreement between Quentin Tarantino and Miramax. What did they agree on the copyright? Who owns what? What rights were assigned to Miramax? Which rights did he retain after the execution of that agreement? But I love that about the law, and I'm sure, in every field is a little bit different, but we are constantly evolving. The law never remains the same because the interactions among human beings don't remain the same. So we have to regulate all of these things that continue to happen. I hope I didn't go too much off the tangent and I addressed your question.
No, you did. And it segues us in, because I have 1,000 questions about NFT. We got to go deeper. When it comes to NFT, I become like that elderly person who doesn't understand technology. So it's a non-fungible token. Is that?
Well, that's what it stands for. And I don't want to mislead anybody because I'm not too much of an expert in that department. I used it as an example how life has changed so much, right? Whereas you used to go to a gallery, you purchase a painting, but then now a replica of that painting is in a code that is inside, you cannot, non-fungible because we can see it, touch it, right? So it's non-fungible. But like, I don't know much about this and how it affects IP law, but I think that we're going to know in the very near future when all these decisions are made, how it will be viewed from the IP point of view. I mean, do you own any NFT?
No, I don't know.
You don't know even how to buy it?
I mean, do people just own like a JPEG? Is it an image on a computer? Is that it broken down as simple as that?
I don't think it's a JPEG, it's a code.
And the code creates a visual representation, which is the image. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it can be replicated, or, I guess it's that particular, you have that one. Yeah.
Okay. And so if someone else, and when you say it's code, is it like you put it through a program and it shows up as a?
Oh, you're asking me technical questions.
Okay, sorry.
I don't want to say something that is not true.
Okay.
I can tell you that it can be replicated, and it's like, I'm curious to see what it's decided, because I consider it derivative work of the original copyright. And you asked me, what is derivative work? And let me tell you, if you write a book and then based on that book, you create a movie, then that's derivative work. So whoever wrote the book, in simple terms, whoever wrote the book. So for me as an IP expert, it would make sense that whoever did that painting or whoever wrote that script that then was turned into the movie, and then it was created in a code in this NFT that was purchased by someone else. The original owner for me would be the copyright owner. The only one that can create derivative work is the copyright owner. So if you write a story and then I want to make a movie based on your story, I would have to acquire those rights, right? because I wouldn't be able to create the movie unless the copyright expired. And that would be the life of the author plus 70 years. And, you know, we have in my family, my father's grandfather was a tango composer. I don't know if you're familiar with tango music, but so all the music he created, the family continued to get paid royalties for many years after he passed. But now they're part of the public domain. So then now anybody can use them. So if they were to put that music in a movie, derivative work, right? Or you could create anything based on those rights because they're already expired.
The derivative work, does the derivative work get the lifetime plus 70 years as well?
Yeah, if you protect the copyright, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
you're thinking of, for example, a story that maybe there was a book that was written 200 years ago.
Yeah.
And then you do a movie based on that book, and then that movie, right? Is that what you're thinking?
I was curious because I wanted to know, so is it with NFT as a derivative work that you get the NFT for your lifetime plus the 70 years as well, or is that law still unclear?
Oh, no, it's unclear. Oh. That's one theory. That's one thing that I think maybe you could consider it, as, but we had in one of those clubhouse meetings, with trademark experts and IP experts, everybody has a different opinion of what's going to happen. That's why I say we don't know until these decisions come out how we're going to consider it, right? But to me, it would make sense because, I mean, again, it could be my lack of understanding, but if you have a painting and then you turn that painting into a code, to me, the original work of authorship, it's based on that original painting. So, but again, this is, I'm not making the laws. I'm just using, this is the beautiful thing about the law or going to law school or practicing as an attorney. It helps you you have a way of thinking, right? My logical thinking tells me this is a way that it could be approached. I'm sure there are other ways, but, and again, the law is always coming a little bit behind, right? With the artificial intelligence, regulating things, we're always behind. That's another thing that in the past few years, everybody's talking about artificial intelligence. And that's something that for IP experts, it's pretty important and attractive.
Why? What about AI involves itself with the IP work?
Well, who owns
the code?
Yeah. So everything, yeah.
Who owns the code the code comes up with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting. I don't know how it affects other areas of the law because, I'm sure that, but yeah, but that has been a topic that comes out regularly.
It does create a very, because I actually remember, I think we even discussed this in law school. Let's say someone creates artificial intelligence. It's effectively code. The artificial intelligence runs a program. Artificial intelligence gets to the point where it's somewhat self-aware. The artificial intelligence itself writes a separate program. Who has the copyright over the separate program? The artificial intelligence program that wrote it, or the person who originally wrote the artificial intelligence program? Is it a derivative? Is it not a derivative? I could see a lot of interesting things happening in there. Let me just come back to NFT for one more. If you can't tell, I'm kind of obsessed with this NFT.
I know you are.
I don't get it, and I'm just.
But you know what? If I don't know certain answers, I'm gonna make sure I get back to you on this. Because, yeah.
Volume 2. Yeah, we'll do a volume 2 just on NFT.
I think so.
Could do that. That's not a bad idea, actually. We can even do a panel on NFT. But what was I going to say? So, to be honest, I completely forgot what I was going to say. Let me ask you some more about. Oh, yes. Okay. So, your sense of it is the NFT is a derivative work. So, let's say you have, with the Miramax case, the Pulp Fiction film, and you have someone taking, I guess, a piece of the film and putting it into an NFT. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's not anybody. It's Quentin Tarantino who wrote the script that was made into the movie, right? So here there are all these things that you would think as an attorney. And we know that we always look what the contract said, right? When there is a contract, we know what does the contract said. So he retained some copyrights. This is the interesting part about this case. So he retained some reproduction rights, like he could do more projects based on that script. And is that included in this NFT that he created and sold or is selling? So again, it needs to be determined. We don't know yet. But it's not anybody. It's him as the copyright owner of that script. Yeah.
I don't mean to age, whether either the judiciary or partners of these very large entertainment firms, but I would be a little interested to see a partner at a firm trying to explain what an NFT is to a judge and that back and forth.
I don't think they would know because it's hard for us to understand.
Yeah.
And this came out, I mean, when the movie came out, NFTs didn't even exist.
Yeah.
This is something of now. So it's going to be very interesting. But the good thing about what we do, you can always rely on experts. Like in your field, you don't have to know everything that is happening in the body of the victim, or, I mean, you have your limitations. You're an expert on your trial, on the rules, or on the how you present your evidence or how you build your case. For us in our field, we know the theories and how you protect the different types of intellectual property, but we don't necessarily need to know the technical side of things, which, I'm not a computer programmer or a coder, but this is a new, it's a different world. And all of these things present questions in my field. And if you have to be in trial and explain to a more senior attorney that may be sitting on the bench trying to make a decision on this is when this logical thinking that I'm explaining you, a judge would know what I'm talking about when I talk about derivative work, because that's a theory that's been out there for a long time. And I guess I'm basically kind of arguing my theory. If I consider NFT a derivative work, the only one that can create it is the copyright owner. Did he retain the rights to the copyright? And this that I'm telling you is what I would tell a judge if I had to argue in favor of Quentin Tarantino or the other way around. But yeah, so we don't necessarily need to know. And I know that in the judiciary, we have very knowledgeable individuals, but we don't know the science behind all these cases that are being decided. I don't think, yeah. We rely on experts.
Yeah. What do you think there is? Let me ask you this. Aside from your derivative work theory, and I get it, the law isn't settled here, are there any other prevailing theories as to how this might go, or are people just kind of in consensus that it looks like a derivative work?
No, there's no consensus. I don't think.
What are the other arguments?
I'll be curious to know. I guess in a way, I don't know if they consider it intellectual property in itself because it's different. So like with everything, it really depends to what side you are arguing. Like what are you trying to prove? Of course, if somebody came up with an NFT and this is something that already existed, they may want to say that that's in itself something that it's original and it's their original work of authorship and it's unrelated to the existing underlying work that may be or may not be copyrighted. So that could be another theory that is on its, it's on its own, or maybe some trademark issues. I have an article that I can share with you that we co-authored with two of my colleagues for the IP section, and you will see how many questions that still need to be answered are in this area.
Send it. We'll post it in the YouTube
link. Yeah.
Let me ask you, I know we've been almost an hour here, but before I let you go, let me ask you, do you think the NFT world is going to have any, interaction with fair use issues? If there's a code that can't be replicated, but someone wants to replicate it for educational purposes, do you see any interplay there?
Uh, you asked me about the fair use doctrine. I don't think we talked. I don't remember if we did talk, but you had some questions about if you could replicate certain copyrighted work. So I'm guessing that the listeners know what the fair use. I always tell my clients this in simple English. If there is no money involved, you're not charging, then there is not that much at stake. If you're using it for educational purposes, in general, you're okay. I guess the issue comes when you are making money and you are using the rights that could belong to somebody else, right? So your question is, if I think that when the NFTs are more regulated or they have their own regulations in place, that there's going to be something equivalent to the fair use.
Yeah.
I hope that there would be, but I don't know. And again, it's very limited. I mean, I know some people like to stretch the use of fair use, but the fair use exemptions to the copyright infringement are very limited.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just want to say this because it's really difficult to speak in the abstract in general about situations. I always go back to some cases of some problems that I solve. And I'm guessing most of the people that will be listening to your podcast are lawyers or they're law students. I always say that I need to get as much factual information as possible to make a solution to a particular problem. So I'm not a judge that is making a decision. I'm not a legislator that's making the law. I'm a practitioner. When clients come to me with a problem, for example, I give you the strategy on IP protection that we had with one client that I personally think we have done an amazing job at protecting their rights. This is a company that has been around for over 100 years, and the copyright of certain original work of authorships that they had expired. They don't longer hold those rights. So we were able to protect with trade dress, with the trademark office, some of those images as trade dress. And I'm giving to my competitors out there that may not be an experience, a tip that I think it has been very useful for our client, and maybe it would be for yours. So, the copyright expire, yes, on the particular image, but if this image became famous, think about the Coca-Cola bottle or these things that you don't want to become part of the public domain. You want your client to retain the exclusive rights. So then there is always ways to protect your client's rights. There is always a way to find a solution to your client's problem. And I had to say that because we're talking about NFTs in the abstract. When clients come with a particular problem, then depending on what you need to solve for them, you come up with a solution with the tools that we have. Yeah. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but
I'm just envisioning a world where I'm in the Facebook virtual reality metaverse. I walk into the room, there's an NFT and there's a bunch of lawyers in their virtual reality lawyer situation, and there's conversations about it. I mean, just imagine where this is headed with all this stuff. Rather than having meetings like over Zoom, people just put on headsets and their avatar walks into a room and this is kind of wild.
Have you seen that movie Free Guy?
No, I have not.
Oh, it's great. I watched it with Ryan Reynolds. I watched it on the plane on my way back from visiting my family about a month ago. It's such a great movie. And it basically talks about this, the virtual reality and you having an avatar in a different world. And I think that future is coming.
Yeah.
At one point I thought, but this was like 5-7 no, it was before I started my practice, so it had to be 10 years ago. But I thought that we would have the virtual law firms like you have the virtual stores. And I mean, yeah, it's interesting.
I better go buy some real estate on that Facebook metaverse, right?
I have a question for you. Would you be a personal injury attorney if you are in the virtual world, or you would choose to be some other type of lawyer?
No, I would still do PI. I mean, I don't know.
It's your passion.
Yeah, people getting injured in virtual reality. Oh, I saw the funniest video. There was a woman, she was in a virtual reality fight, and
Oh,
her boyfriend was videotaping her. And you see her going like this. She has a headset on, and she's like punching the air. And then she hears something and she turns around, and you can't see what she's seeing. She screams at the top of her lungs, starts running, and slams right into the wall and falls on the floor. And
oh
it,
my God.
it's kind of a funny thing. You can come up with some PI scenarios that might be a little stretch, might be a bit of a stretch to do that there. But now look, I do enjoy PI. I do enjoy the employment that I do. The employment that I do is very similar to PI. A lot of discrimination, sexual harassment, sexual assault, hostile work environment. Very similar to PI. It's at the end of the day, it's someone injuring someone else. And usually trying to cover it up. So yeah, I don't ever see myself leaving that arena, though. I mean, I just imagine meeting with clients in virtual reality.
Yeah.
Imagine going to court in virtual reality. Aside from the fact that we're all going to get very pale, it just seems like what a future. And I'll throw the question back to you. I feel that's a little creepy. It's a little dystopian. There's literally Black Mirror episodes that kind of reflect what we're talking about. How do you feel? If I said to you, hey, in 15 years, they're going to court with virtual reality, what do you
I
say?
don't, because I'm thinking if our grandparents were looking at you and I having this conversation on Zoom, they'll be like, what's going on? So no, it's just part of evolution. I think that I thought that future was going to be here sooner, believe it or not. 10 years ago, I thought we would already be, but definitely it's a different world, and we just have to keep up with things. I don't know if it is, and I'm sure if my grandmother was watching this, will be like, what?
Just go talk to her in person.
But how lucky are we? I mean, everything is a matter of perspective, right? Like I love technology in the sense that it allows you to connect. My colleague in Los Angeles, and I'm in North County, San Diego. And I know we're not too far, and we would have no issue meeting in person, but how wonderful it is that we can be connected. So I like a lot of the benefits that technology and the future can bring. So like with everything, I have this saying that says a knife, you can use it to cut and you can use it to kill. Everything in life, there is going to be ways to use it for the advancement of knowledge and progress and to make things better for everybody. And there is always going to be the possibility of making the world harder and dark. Yeah. So
I mean, imagine 25 years from now, the 22-year-olds are going to nightclubs virtually, and all their avatars are NFTs that no one else can see. That would make sense to me. If your avatar was copywritten, that kind of makes sense to me, because you want to have an image of yourself that you're portraying that is unique to you only. But I mean, there's so many wild things we can come up with. We have been going, believe it or not, about an hour. I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy woman, and I appreciate you coming on. I always like to give the guest the last word. Please, if there's anything you got to say, now would be the time.
Well, thank you, Daniel. I'm really pleased that I had an opportunity to talk to you. You're a colleague that I admire very much. All the work that you do for the West Side Bar Association and for the legal community in LA. I want to tell whoever is listening to this that I love practicing law. It's challenging, it's demanding. There are a lot of obstacles on a daily basis, but I would never choose another profession. And if you have any questions about IP or anything relating to pursuing a career in law, feel free to reach out to me, Mariana Noli. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you, Daniel.
We'll put a link to your website in the comments below. Mariana, thank you so much for joining us today.